It's nothing that we've just decided we're gonna go ahead and spend because we need it. So it's all taken care of. Department of Local Affairs has also said, not a big deal, just fill out the paperwork, get it turned in, and we're good.
Exactly.
Okay.
We didn't cross our Ts and dot our Is properly, and now we will.
It's a mistake and something that we obviously didn't plan for, and it was something that was missed, and we try not to let those things happen. But again, we were in transition with our finance director, and it was an honest mistake. So hopefully that helps explain it a little bit better. If I messed it up, I'm sorry, but I think that's.
So essentially, moving forward, when you bring it back to council, do we amend that current fiscal year to add that in? Is that how that's done?
We'll amend 2018 to add that in, and then we'll also make sure that we've updated 2019 so that we have the right amounts budgeted. I think we already have the right amounts budgeted for that in 2019, but we'll just correct 2018, and there'll be two separate resolutions.
Okay, thanks.
And did I hear, so you cleared it up for me, so we used to do it kind of all at one lump sum. Are you changing that now to if something happens and it's kind of more of a, when it comes up basis, we're gonna go ahead and do it?
That's correct. We're going
Okay.
to do it more often.
So we're not,
Probably
relying on
Probably 3 to
that.
4 supplementals a
Okay.
year instead of just 1 or 2.
Okay,
So
Okay.
in 2018, there was just one right near the end of the year, and it didn't catch everything.
okay. That makes sense. And it'll help cover us in the end, so we're not, again, relying on that one time that we've been doing it before.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Well, with that, I'd like to introduce Jim Hinkle and thank him again, he and his staff, for their hard work coming up and helping us with that audit. And I'll turn it over to you, Jim.
Okay, and for public, if there's other questions after the presentation, we'll have you come up. But I want to have the presentation first so we can get through that part. And
Thank you very much. My name is Jim Hinkle with Hinkle & Company CPAs, and we did perform the annual audit of the financial statements in the CAFR, the Consolidated Annual Financial Report. One of the things that we like to tell everybody up front is the financial statements are the city's responsibility, and John and his staff. Our responsibility is to audit those financial statements and to determine that they are correctly reflecting the city's financial position based upon general accepted accounting principles. We get to the accountant and everybody walks out. We started our audit before year end when we do what we call our interim procedures, and that is where we sit down with the accounting department and we document the internal control structure for the accounting processes, the initiation, the execution, and the recording of accounting transactions. Then we do what we call test of controls, where we randomly select disbursements, whether it's regular disbursements, payroll disbursements, throughout the different systems of the city, and we test those internal control structures to ensure two different things. One is that our understanding of those controls is what is happening, and then the effectiveness of those controls to ensure that various control aspects are actually occurring on the transactions that we sample test. We do this for two reasons. First of all, we want to determine whether there are any internal control significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Those are terms of art in our world. A significant deficiency is defined as a design flaw in the system of internal controls that would allow an error to go undetected in the ordinary course of business. And a material weakness is a significant deficiency that would result in a material misstatement of the financial statements. And as a result of our analysis of the internal controls and our testing of those controls, we did not find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the day-to-day accounting transactions and policies and procedures. Kind of say in layman's term, you have the segregation of duties that allows those cross-checks to occur. In the accounting world, we don't want the same person to initiate execute or approve and record a single transaction. We want multiple people involved in that process so that one person can be prohibited from doing something inappropriately and it going undetected. And that the city does have that adequate internal control structure in place, and that it is operating so that the city has the comfort that no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses would occur in the financial statements. The second reason we do that is for our planning of the audit procedures for the end of the year. We determine how the level of control risk that we are going to rely upon, and that dictates the extent of our testing of the actual financial statements. We then come in at the end of the year, after the books are closed, and we do what we call substantive testing on the year-end balances, both the balance sheet and the income statement. We test the details, we drill down into account balances, look at what the account balances are made up of, and we compare those back to source documents such as invoices or documents from the state on revenues. We also do a lot of analytic review analysis where we look at this year to last year, this year to budget. We may look at accounts receivable in relationship to revenues, accounts payable in relationship to expenditures. We do that by fund as well as by the city as whole. And all of those tests are designed to come up with our opinion on the financial statements. And our opinion is a unmodified, which in layman's term is a clean opinion. Basically states that the financial statements prepared by management are in accordance with general accepted accounting principles and are applied on a consistent basis with the previous year. And that is the report that you all want. It means the financial statements are presented accurately. We also issue a letter to management and to the council. It is not a public document, but it is what we call a required communication letter. If we have anything that under our standards requires us to communicate in writing, we have to communicate that in writing. And if we don't, we then include that fact in our letter. And that's what we are in fact including in this letter. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have any difficulties in performing the audit. We did not have any other audit issues that created complications in the audit. And we did not, or we were not aware of management consulting with other accounting firms. That sounds a little unusual, but that is designed to eliminate what we used to call opinion shopping, where if we were hired to do the audits and we thought we were going to have a problem and issue a qualified opinion, and then the city would go find another accounting firm until they agreed that they would issue a clean opinion. And if we are aware of that, we have to communicate that, and that did not happen with respect to that. So we did notice a couple of things that we have communicated to management that are not material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. That's part of our normal audit process to communicate those things to help in the process. Part of that is the budget issue that John mentioned as well. And all in all, the audit went smooth. I would like to thank John and Shauna and the entire staff. We are an interruption to their daily lives here at work. We ask a lot of questions. We ask for a lot of documents. Everything that we asked for, we were provided in a very timely basis. We were not kept from anything. So we felt like we had full access to anything that we needed to be able to complete our work independently of the city. So that is my report. Are there any questions for me or for John?
Any questions from council? No? Any questions from public? Okay, and that's, it's a lot of stuff, but that's what the audit's for, is to protect the city, protect the citizens who pay the city through our taxes. So thank you for all that. John, at this point, I got to go back to my agenda here. I'm sorry. Okay, so we just need to make an approval for the annual financial report. Okay, I'm going to check one more time. Any questions from anybody? Okay.
Is it standard procedure to get this document, so we really didn't have a lot of time to review it and ask questions?
I will be happy to provide it on a more timely basis. I've, attached it to the city council agenda and, under the normal process, but happy to send it off sooner. I wanted to time it with the presentation, so.
Yeah, I think a little bit more time to have time to look at it and ask
Okay.
questions and digest, especially if there is something that is of concern.
Sure.
Yeah, and it was
When-
120-some pages of,
It was a lot of pages, and I was sick all weekend, so I didn't have time to even
Yeah.
begin reading it till Monday afternoon. So I've been through it quickly, but kind of stopped at page 54.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but, and I don't think that's, I think it would be helpful if we had longer time to go through it and ask questions, and you get,
Sure.
get with us and see if we have questions. I think that'd
Duly
be
noted. I'll make sure that happens.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
We would ask that you approve the CAFR at this point.
Okay, thanks. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive annual financial report.
And Mr. Applegate?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Please vote.
6 yes, motion carried.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for all your work. Item 9C, Front Range Dual Service Rail Park of Southern Colorado Project Update. Ms. Bailey's back.
Evening again, council, mayor, and public. We have a private property ownership that has an interest in developing a proposed rail yard park at the exit of 128 that flanks along the Fort Carson boundary to support some resiliency efforts for the base, as well as spur job creation and healthy workforce development for both the city as well as the county at large. So with that, we'd like to present Gary Barber, who is the project manager for Edward C. Levy Corporation, who actually is the private party on behalf of this project. Do you have the presentation loaded? Yeah, it was in your drive for this tonight.
What's going on, Gary?
Hi, Gary.
I just draw pictures in the air.
Okay.
Yeah, let me introduce myself while they're sorting that out and emphasize that I'm not an employee of the Edward C. Levy Company. I'm a project manager working for an oversight committee that includes your representatives with the city of Fountain. So this project is a public-private partnership. You hear that term bandied about quite a bit, but what it really means is that over the last 5 years, really starting in Fountain, El Paso County, the city of Colorado Springs, the Colorado Springs Economic Development Corporation, and you all, and Edward C. Levy Company, have come together to try to move this project forward to provide a second rail access for Fort Carson. And so I work for an oversight committee that was created through a memorandum of understanding. Your mayor and your mayor pro tem are members of that. Kimberly's been involved from the very beginning with the economic development opportunity that it represents. And so I'm here today to tell you that we have made great progress in certain ways, and therefore I will start drawing little cartoons on the back. So I can really fill you in pretty well with where we are and some of the history, and then if we have pictures, that'll be great. Project really started, for those of you who remember, with Lisa Cochran, who was Kimberly's predecessor. There you go. Right. Okay.
With a mere twinkle in her eye.
Yeah. So this goes back a ways to the mid-2000s. And what's happening is that the Ray Nixon power plant has a dual service from the two Class 1 railroads. A Class 1 railroad is a railroad that has revenues over $450 million a year. In the western United States, there are only two, Union Pacific and Burlington Northern Santa Fe. And they share, as you know very well, these two tracks. One of the reasons we're here this evening is in applying for a grant. One of our tasks in that grant is to really look at how the tracks operate in the city of Fountain and engage in a public process to try to figure out how we mitigate impacts, particularly if we're able successfully to increase rail traffic. But the real driver for the project was that entire rail switch, the bridge that goes over I-25 that delivers coal to the power plant, could be extended a couple of miles and reach Fort Carson. And so that was the dream, that was the vision. We started, I was engaged by El Paso County at the time to try to create jobs in southern El Paso County. We did a proof of concept report that was published in the fall of 2015. Started looking around for grants, talked to the Economic Development Administration about that. And they were the ones that suggested a memorandum of understanding. If you're really serious about this, because it has such a community-wide benefit, see if you can get all the governments to participate. So that process of creating that memorandum of understanding basically took from the fall of 15 to May of 2018. So that was a bit of slow going. Part of the reason for that is because in order to, and if you think about it, I'll kind of pick on Curtis because he's been very helpful. If you're a utility operator and everything's operating, why would you want to do something differently, right? So if you're running a coal plant and the coal trains are showing up 2 or 3 times a week, and somebody comes along and says, boy, have I got an idea for you, we're going to reconfigure your track and start moving some other trains through here. And their attitude was kind of like, you know what, we're doing just fine without all of that. So the real driver for all of this, and you'll see how it turns out when we get the pictures up there, was the need that Fort Carson has for a second railhead. If you've driven across South Academy Boulevard and looked down onto Fort Carson, you know that their rail facility is really chopped up. And then for them to put a train together and deploy, they actually push it out into the neighborhood. And they spent a bunch of money to even be able to do that. And so you've got all this military equipment on a train and a chain link fence outside the boundary of the fort. So from a readiness and resiliency perspective, having a second rail access to the south is very helpful. And then to be able to use, have both rails serve that is also helpful. So it was really, the driver was getting that rail to Fort Carson. After we got the memorandum of understanding, and I want to really point out also that you all have not only put time and energy into this, you put money into this. You are one of the public-private partners that put dollars in, along with City of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, the Chamber of Commerce. Okay. So we're going to talk about the project status and the bill grant. I'm going to figure these buttons out and we'll keep going. So where are we now? Talked about the memorandum of understanding, the work we've done to get ready for all of this, including both a workforce analysis and a fiscal impact analysis. So here's what we call the preferred alternative. And to give you a little orientation, I think this has a laser on it, maybe. Here we go. So the blue and the loop, part of what happens, and you all know this better than anybody, when they unload a coal train, which is 2 to 3 times a week, when they built Nixon back in the 70s, the trains weren't as long. So now when they get a delivery of coal, the locomotive actually backs up out over the bridge as they unload the coal. So for 24 hours at a time, you can't use the rail track. So the first thing we had to do, the dark blue, is to turn that teardrop loop that's there today into a true loop so they can pull a coal train in and have the whole thing fit and unload it without backing onto the bridge. That opens up the bridge for regular use. And then we call what's now the preferred alternative, that spur going off to the north of the plant, option 2. We also looked at option 3, which was further to the south, and option 1 went way up.
Mayor, council, first I'm gonna start off with a disclaimer. I am not the public speaker that Chris Heber is.
Nobody is.
so please forgive me. But what we've started here is the crime stat. And this is where are we on the right page? I'm sorry. So we do CompStat now, and this is where our crime analysis officer, she would, on a daily basis, she will take what has occurred the prior 24 hours, and she will map where crimes are occurring on the crime map. So I like to say we make sure that the officers are on the dots, cops on the dots. So we're making sure we're becoming smarter as far as fighting crime. We know exactly where to be. And then we've taken it a step further, where we actually have, I have conversations, the chief and I have conversations every Wednesday with the lieutenants, and we ask them where have they concentrated their patrols throughout the week. So we make sure that they know where the officers need to be. And we have seen this is very beneficial to us, and it's helping us reduce crime, and we know where to be and when to be there. Any questions?
On this one.
I'm sorry. For instance, up on South Academy, this is where the most of our accidents occur. So we also map the times most likely these accidents are going to occur. So we make sure that our traffic officers are up there during those times, enforcing the different violations that are going on, and we're noticing that our traffic accidents are going down because of the officers know to be there to enforce the laws. Absolutely.
The savings not only for the citizen, but for the resources and being able to spread them better.
Absolutely, and it also gives us a safer community.
And the safe, yeah, that's for the citizen, yeah, the
Absolutely.
safety. Is it a lot of it speed related?
A lot of it is speed related, distracted driving, not paying attention. So those are the two main ones that we run across.
Yeah, people have really got to slow down.
Yes, they do.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Okay, any other questions for Commander? Okay. Chief?
All right, well, good evening. So Fire Station 2, we are expecting to start construction on that on October the 1st. That is if there's no asbestos in the building. There was an asbestos test done yesterday. We'll know within a week. Hopefully that comes back negative. Otherwise, that's going to play a factor in delaying things. And what that is, that's 7 separate bunk rooms for males and females instead of everybody sleeping in the same room. New kitchen, new day room. And so what's going to happen during the construction is we're going to keep the trucks in the bays, and I'm going to get some fifth wheels out in the back, and that's how we'll house our firefighters for the time being and still be able to maintain the station. So I think it's rolling along very well. And the other part, any questions about the fire station? Okay. And the other item is fire districts updated for response efficiency. We put that in there because we made a little bit of an adjustment between Station 2 and Station 1 in a certain area that we found that Station 1 can get. In the area of Comanche Village Road and Fountain Mesa Road, there was just a little bit of a street adjustment we did there where we found Station 1 can get there quicker, just getting help to our citizens quicker. And then we are preparing to hire additional firefighters at the end of the third quarter, but it'll be towards the very end of the, actually it's gonna be the fourth quarter.
Do you guys utilize the comp stat at all? At the fire department? I mean,
So we do have a monthly report that goes out that talks about all the different types of calls we get, times of day that we get calls. We also run a report where we have 2 calls at the same time or 3 calls at the same time and the percentages of resources being available. And if any of you ever want to see that, we're happy to share it.
okay. All right. Any questions for Fire Chief?
Gordon Rick, according to the budget analysis we got on page 94, I'm showing the fire department had 31.65 emergency services personnel and 8 on for emergency medical services. You said you're planning on hiring in the fourth quarter. Where's that hiring going to take us to? What numbers is that going to give us?
So those positions are full-time positions,
Mm-hmm.
and they will be, what you're seeing in the financial statement is how the personnel are paid. Certain personnel are paid out of the EMS funds, and other personnel are paid out of the fire funds, but everybody, for the most part, is cross-trained. So we'll be adding, it's a total of 3 more firefighter paramedics
Okay,
with that hire.
so that'll take us up to 34. Okay, so
So the basic question is, what's our paid staff gonna look like after the hire?
yeah,
So we have, currently we have the 31 full-time. We have approximately 10 per diems, which plug in for vacations.
okay.
And then we have 5 part-times. And then we have 21 volunteers.
So, but we're gonna be adding 3,
3 full-time
full-time.
positions. Yes.
And that'll be enough to cover our third ambulance?
So not quite. We have 4 new positions that are slated in the budget for 2020, and then we'll be able to do the third ambulance in entirety, because 3 positions only covers one seat of the 2-person ambulance. But we're going to make it work the best we can until we can get those additional positions.
that are budgeted in 2020.
Yes, sir.
As long as we keep that in mind for when the 2020 budget comes around. Doesn't make any sense to,
I think it's already there. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Chief.
Okay, our last strategic priority here is really around, well, our focus has been primarily recreation facilities. Now, this objective is obviously broader than recreation. It deals with youth programs, athletics, but it's venues that support a variety of community activities. So I'm going to hand this over to Sylvia, who oversees our parks and recreation.
Thank you, Scott. Mayor, City Council, I apologize. If you would prefer, I can come up to the podium without turning my back to you here.
It's up to you.
report on-
You're
okay.
good.
Okay. You know what? I'll do that. See it. Oh, no. It came up on my screen. Okay, so we'll go over into RF1 and achieving the cost savings for additional investments in recreation activities. So we're in the process of always achieving cost savings for investments in recreational activities. And so some of those things, and it actually blends into some of Curtis's, and that our cost savings move into the coordination efforts with the utility office. One of them being utilities completely supplements our movie night in the park. They've also did cost sharing with us on our weather track system, which is our water savings equipment that we have installed in our parks. We're also working with the Conservation Department and doing a complete overhaul of the dog park this year. There will be some supplemental dollars that will come before City Council on that as well. They have grant funding for that and reached out to the Parks Department, and that's what we chose as being a priority. So we are working heavily with them and trying to come up with different programs and different ways to do some cost sharing. The Citywide Events calendar that synchronizes with public engagement, thank goodness John Trilch kind of took that under his belt and made sure he got that taken care of. There's a lot of things going on in the community, not just recreation, and we like to let everybody know through social media as well. We have RF3, set the conditions for construction of a local recreation facility. As you all know, we have a recreation, slow down. Okay, sorry. We have a recreation facility advisory committee that meets on a regular basis. Through that committee, there's been tons of discussion. Actually, Fran and Mr. Rick know what's going on in there. But through that committee, they have made preliminary decisions to approach City Council and bringing a ballot question before the voters in 2020 for a mill levy increase for a recreation facility. There's been new information that's come to the forefront and trying to figure out how we accomplish that and applying for grant funding, looking for sponsors, looking for donors. And so new information has come forward as of recently, just through research and meeting with City of Colorado Springs, with the Pikes Peak Foundation, with another 501c3, just trying to establish what that looks like for us now and in the future. So within that, do I need to touch on something in specific in that meeting, do you think, Scott? Okay. Okay, so that's the big piece is coming to the voters in 2020, like I said. So there's a capital campaign company, George K. Baum, that we're actually looking at to help us through that process as well. Initial fundraising is going to have to occur in order to onboard George K. Baum before we go that far. Did I miss anything here? No, I think that's all I have. Sorry, I went so quickly.
Okay.
You guys have any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Huffman?
I just noticed the shade over at the riding and roping arena.
Mm.
And I know that's been a goal of yours for a long time, so thank you very much for getting the picnic shading areas installed over there.
Thank you.
So I want to thank the staff for providing those reports. The council will get their annual report in January as we wrap up the year, give us a little bit of time to compile that information and put that together. This is just a little bit of background information that we provided or conducted, we conduct internally quarterly updates with staff so that I'm consistently getting the updates from staff. And I'll tell you that these guys really are going above and beyond to make sure that they're really up on top of these issues. And some of these are very fluid. I mean, the recreation facility is one where we think we're heading in one direction and then things happen and there's new items that are thrown on that we have to be on top of. And so, that's probably real similar with just about any one of these items. The strategic priorities we're integrating into our council meeting packets you've seen. We want to make sure that they're there. Our budget process, it's really become integrated in our budget process as well. So we're focused on that. We posted the strategy on the website, social media, and we also have a printed copy at City Hall. So just providing this information to the City Council. Are there any, one other comment I want to make and maybe a request. This is the first time we've done any sort of little mid-year update or anything like this. So as you as council members think about it, or members of the public think about it, and they have some ideas on ways to improve these updates as we go, I think we just want to be really open to anything like that. So just let us know as you think about it. If there's some things we can be doing to provide better information to you, more useful information, let us know. But any other questions at this point? Okay, let me start over. So for anybody who wants to see the strategic plan, it's right on the front page of our website. And then underneath where you can actually go to the page that's specific to the strategic plan, it has the 4 priorities. Will we be able to, will we be able to at least mark on there our yellows and greens, or so the public can say, okay, yeah, they're. This actual presentation will be on there. The quad charts will be on there. We didn't want to provide that until we had brought it to the City Council.
Okay. And you can download, we have copies, and I know John had to order some more, or you can actually just download the actual strategic plan on your computer or iPad or whatever from the website. So, I don't know, any other questions?
Just really quick, I know you said, council had come up with the strategic plan priorities. It was all done in open meetings with public input, and the public was invited to be involved at all time, and several members were, and I think that's great. So I think this is not necessarily just council's priorities. I think it's our community's priorities that council is trying to implement.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think that's a really good point.
Okay, come on.
I was wondering, Scott, if you could show the first
Miss Carrick.
I'm sorry, Fran Carrick. Could I see the first slide, the flow chart you have?
graph, yeah.
The graph, mm-hmm. And that's from when to when?
2001 is the first year to 2018 on the far right.
So, and the increase in population was?
94%.
94%. How many businesses did we bring in during that time? Do we know?
That's not part of this data. We could find that, that's not part of this data. So that's not included in this, but that would be
So it's
information.
just people?
It's just the number of people, right? Yep, and it's the number of, that's the budget dollars.
Yeah,
Is the second line. And then the budget per capita.
yeah. Okay, okay.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, no, and then again, if you have any suggestions on how to tweak the presentation, I think, let us know. I think for a first chance, that was good. And we'll see what happens in January too, when you guys do the actual annual update as well, so. Okay, with that, we will move on to item D, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. I'll start with Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
Todd? Troy? No? Chief?
Nothing. We look forward to seeing everybody at the dance at the fire station evening.
Sunday evening. All right. Commander, anything?
No, sir.
Curtis?
Been working with John Trilch on a request to make ourselves available to the Air Force Academy and some of the staff there, just to share our experiences in dealing with the water contamination. So we're coordinating a meeting with them this upcoming Friday morning. So just wanted to let you know we want to give back and support the Air Force just as a partner as much as we can.
Great. John, anything else?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, Kyle, anything from IT?
Yeah, I apologize, but it looks like there was a hiccup in the live stream tonight. I will see
Oh, a
what.
hiccup?
A hiccup?
Okay, I thought you said a pickup. I'm like, what are we picking up? Okay, hiccup. Okay.
I will see what I can recover and try to get the whole meeting posted, even though it may not have live streamed.
Okay, I think that's fine. That's, yeah. And we're gonna have those hiccups, I think. Okay. Ms. Huffman, anything?
Real quickly, and keep everybody updated, I have been updating our local media as well. We had 4 completed petitions submitted for at-large positions, and 3 petitions picked up for Ward 2, but only 2 have been verified. We still have another that has been submitted, and verification on signatures is yet to be done
For Ward 2?
for Ward 2.
Okay. So right now, 7?
6. 6 right now, could be 7, as long as we can verify all those
Oh, okay.
signatures. Mhm.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Cool, okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Kind of have a question for Curtis. With the residents in Pueblo looking at an alternative rather than Black Hills, this is a 2-part question. One, if they do in their relationship with Black Hills, would that have an impact on our customers here, considering that they would be losing money? 2, would that put us in a better position to actually have a relationship with Black Hills?
It really would not have any effect on us and on our power supply or on any of our pricing. Our only relationship with Black Hills is a minor one for a piece of transmission to get out of the Pueblo hydroelectric plant to the Midway substation. Other than that, their tariffs, their pricing doesn't really affect our customers. I would say that having Pueblo become another municipal utility just strengthens all of us that are municipal utilities in the state of Colorado, that we could speak with a stronger voice. So we certainly like to see that trend, and I would say there would be some benefit from that.
Thanks, Bert. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Geek?
Nothing tonight?
Mr. Applegate?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Lauer?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Ms. Thompson?
Todd, where are we on the finishing up the zoning, and where can citizens find that online to look at that if it's of interest to them?
Process is continuing. I can't give you an update.
Well, we didn't do all the modules. We don't have a time when we're gonna do the last, because we pulled out signs and something else.
She's gonna be bringing back finish that up. Has she put that, do you know, Sylvia, on the agenda yet?
I don't believe so, no.
So she's gonna be bringing back the last 2 modules to finish that up, and then they can go online through the planning.
Okay, so go to the city website, click on planning, and then on the drop-down menu there, the zoning, proposed zoning changes. Because I think that's important that people look at the proposed changes and.
To make it easier for everyone, I'll just talk to Christie and Wilson and have them put something back up on Facebook with the link so folks can link it through there.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I have, I just wanted to recognize Fura and Kimberly for all the hard work with the Peaks and Pines Brewery. That's the first project that we've actually got to finish. We bought, and Kimberly brought it up, but we've bought some blighted issues or areas. We've taken down some really bad buildings and done those sort of things, and we're kind of waiting on the transition and who to get, and hopefully we can coax someone to want to take over some of those properties. But this is one where I actually have a finished product, and it's looks like it's going to be pretty successful. And Fura really worked hard with the brewery to get them in there and do all that. So just everybody's hard work, and especially Kimberly, and the brewery had nothing but great things to say about her and everything that she helped them with. So I just wanted to recognize them for all that. But other than that, our next meeting, we have no executive session. Our next meeting is September 10th, and we're adjourned.